What's your preferred caffeine method?
The big guy
I forgot. Why did I even ask that question? I knew what the answer was.
You know what? I've been on a kick lately, though. Okay, this is so. When I'm going to say it, you're going to go, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" C4, which is the pre-workout, they make an energy drink, and they make an energy drink called Cereal Killer, but like spelled cereal, like the bowl cereal, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of tastes like Fruit Loops. None of this should work. But I love it so much. And it's so much that I was like, what if I poured this over a bowl of cereal? I have not tried that yet, but
I love that they figured out that cereal milk is such a very specific but beloved flavor.
yes.
They've done it with ice cream. They clearly do it with C4, which sounds awful to me right now. But yeah.
It makes your skin tingle.
Okay, so I had to learn this lesson.
Pretty
All right, because
exciting.
I would not use pre-workout for that very reason. I do not want to get into the gym and feel like my insides are going to burst the first time I do a bench press. And so I finally found one that I enjoy and doesn't make me feel crazy. But also what I do, I don't down the whole thing before my workout. I spread it out. And then I don't have that tingling feeling.
Like a smart, logical, rational person.
Yes.
I don't have time for that. I just gotta throw it back.
I gotta pump that iron.
I do like, it's not a good feeling, but it is a useful feeling when you're just like filled with anxiety that you're like, I just need to pick something up. That's kind of the,
yes,
you know,
but like I said, I think that slow release of the pre-workout, and I guess you can call mine current workout, but like the slow release really helps me. Just like I can do 2 or 3 hours in the gym and not feel exhausted or tired. It's kind of amazing.
This has now become a fitness podcast.
Yes.
I started when I'm doing longer workouts, actually bringing a little snack, like throwing it in my gym bag. And I find that, you know, because you're exerting yourself, just eating a little snack as you go. Oh man, I feel like my energy levels stay consistent. It's great. So if you're ever wanting to treat yourself a little at the gym and make it not like, so just give yourself a little snack. I do a little rice cake with a little peanut butter spread on it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Okay, Quaker Oats. We'll get that Quaker Oats sponsorship and get those rice cakes out there. Hey,
no, this episode is brought to you by us. Once again, there's no sponsors here. E4, Celsius, Quaker Oats, they're not sponsoring us.
We are just sailing the treacherous seas of the internet on our lonesome. So, but yeah. So first, everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Hey, we got some emails.
I said this last week, but genuinely, I'm just really happy with how much people like are really engaging with it. You know, sometimes you put things out there and you go, I don't know, is anybody even, you know, sometimes I'll post videos and I see that people watch them, but there's never any engagement. And so it's just been really gratifying to be like, oh, you're listening. Cool. So we appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, seriously, everyone. It's there's never a guarantee with these kind of things. If you like it or not. So thank you. Yeah. So let's do with this first one here. This is from Kate, and I have to point out, Google, I don't like AI, and the fact that you generated a response to this email for us.
Thanks so much for your email, Kate.
Oh my, no, I'll read it to you another time. But the way that they formatted this thing,
I hate it.
I'm so upset. Anyway, Kate.
Or do you get the synopsis of the email like in AI form and it's like not correct and it makes it sound like something is wrong or something? That happened multiple times where I'll be like, it'll be like, you know, murder reported, terrified. And I'm like, what? And then it's like, hey, did you see this horror movie or whatever? And I'm like, stop summarizing AI. All right, Kate, what did Kate say?
So first of all, Kate is writing from Australia. And Kate was excited to hear that you, Curt, listened to Fall Out Boy because they've also been getting into them in recent years after just theater and nerdcore. So the question is, what are your favorites? Oh, go ahead.
They do have theater kid energy, don't they? Fall Out Boy and specifically.
Massive.
Specifically.
Especially when they were wearing that hairstyle back in 2003 and 2000 between those years. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, what are your favorite songs or albums? Because they've been listening to Under the Cork Tree and Infinity on High, and they want to hear your thoughts.
You know, I wish I could tell you individual albums. I think it's like more like random songs that I tend to listen to. From Under the Cork Tree is which I'm sure I recognize this as an artist myself, not a band or as widely successful as Fall Out Boy, but I feel like sometimes, James, you probably relate to this. You do something early on and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I did that. And now I'm doing new things, but people still just care about the old thing that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's like a thing that I try not to be cognizant of because I know it's frustrating for me sometimes when it's like, yeah, no, I'm doing other things now. That said, From Under the Cork Tree, which is like I think it's their debut album from 2005, is so like seminal for me because that hit a year before, like right around when I was like in high school, close to graduating. It kind of represented the departure from a lot of the kids music that I was listening to. I Growing up, I only really listened to like classical music,
Mm.
Broadway scores, and um some of my dad's like interests, 80s and Fleetwood Mac. But for me, it was like, oh, I'm listening to something dangerous and cool and edgy. So even though I know they've had so many albums,
Mm-hmm.
I listened to what is it? So Much for Stardust. I think that's the one they did in 2023. I listened to that one, and I've listened to various ones here or there. But if I had to pick like one that defines my teen years, I mean, it is From Under the Cork Tree. Which again, I
Yeah.
know it's like that is their first album, and they've made so many more. And I'm certain if I was sitting here, they'd probably say, "What about all the other ones?"
Oh yeah.
And they're great. But yeah, that's the one that I obviously think about time and time again. Um, Individual songs, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a specifically individual song. I've been on a kick, honestly, in the last few weeks. Maybe this podcast inspired it, of trying to listen to more music and not just go to my favorites, not just
Mm-hmm.
go to the like, hey, I know this one and then all the lyrics, so I'm just going to put it on again.
Mm-hmm.
So like weirdly enough, I listened while I was driving over to the Fox lot yesterday, which is a very long drive if you've ever driven around LA. And I listened to like the entirety of a Sum 41 album I've never listened to. But I was like, I like Sum 41. Why don't I know? So I just put it on. And so with Fall Out Boy, it's like I don't know if there's a specific track, but I've just been putting them on from time to time. But
Yeah.
they're great, man. I will say I saw them live at there was the Hella Mega tour where they were opening for Green Day. Or they were open. It was a co kind of headline situation, and for my money, Patrick Stump might be one of the best live vocalists I have ever heard. I
Facts.
was I was flabbergasted. I mean, like he sounds better now than he ever sounded when he was younger. His
Mm-hmm.
vocal control, his support, and just they were phenomenal live. So if you get a chance to see them live, I think it's like a really fantastic show, and he's
I
really he's outstanding live.
I think the theater kid energy that is evocative of that era comes from the fact that a lot of those lead singers, and to a certain extent, I include Brendan Urie in this conversation, they just had phenomenal instruments to sing with, right?
Yeah.
As frontmen of these bands, they had very clear tone and they were hitting these high notes. And so I think when you talk about theater kid energy, that's kind of part of that because it lends itself so well to these dynamic voices and the genre itself. So yeah, I agree. Patrick Stump is phenomenal. I do want to add a little anecdote here. Yesterday I was on Threads, which is still alive and kicking somehow.
It
Uh,
is. Sometimes I see some good stuff on there.
yes, and there was a thread that said, "Tell me you were a black kid who grew up around white people without telling
I
me."
saw you post this.
Yes, and it was the truest thing I've ever
What
seen
were
in my life.
what were some of the things that jumped out at you that you went, "Yep."
Well, this was part of that is because people were saying, "Oh, I could rattle off all the Fall Out Boy lyrics." I was like, "Yeah," because here's the thing: there was this alt rock station, 89X, rest in peace. And when I was in high school, I was on the lacrosse. Well, I was the manager of the lacrosse team, and all they would listen to was that station. So you'd hear Sum 41, Disturbed. Fallout Boy, 3 Days Grace, My Chemical Romance. Like that was just that era of rock music, which I do kind of miss.
Me
And
too.
yeah, it feels like there should have been an evolution of that, and it didn't happen. But yeah, so there was like a good 2 solid years where that was the music I was listening to, and I was just I was in my emo phase. I couldn't grow the hair to like fit the look, but I at least like listened to the radio stations. So that was a very pivotal part of my adolescence.
This is a strange tangent, but it reminds me of something I just watched recently. And I
Hmm.
could not tell you, I should have my source here, but I'm just yes anding off of this. But it was essentially the idea of how a lot of the this is a big jump, so just go with me.
I'm there.
But it was proposing that in losing a lot of the alt rock or punk rock kind of space, that a lot of the fascistic right wing sort of thing, like engine, has sucked up a lot of where like young guys went, where like
Hmm.
that music and that outlet, which was so much about like stick it to the man, F you to like the machine, to the system,
Hmm.
has kind of collapsed. And in its place, a lot of like young men gravitate towards like crypto bros. And like, it was like this whole essay about we lost like an alt space of like, no, like it's cool to like not
Hmm.
to not be as subservient to the like the capitalistic machine. And I was like going, that is so interesting, because so many of the things that I continue to care about, that I continue to be angry about in our world, a lot of those ideas of like resistance. And I'm not saying that these punk fans were like revolutionary in this, because I think they're in the footsteps of true revolutionaries. But a lot of the ideas of like don't conform
Hmm.
did come from that era of like. And and I'm I am curious, is there anything like that right now for teens that is like an outlet of sort of forming these political ideas or these social ideas? And the video essay I was watching kind of proposed that there wasn't. I've been thinking about that a lot recently.
Hmm. Yeah,
I don't know how true that is, but it struck me in a pretty visceral way.
I would say that, yeah, probably if there was a 1-to-1, no, I don't think there's a current replacement for what something like Rage Against the Machine was doing back in the 90s. However, what I've observed, because I'm also a big electronic music fan, so EDM,
Mm-hmm.
trance music, dance, progressive house, and even just house. By going to a lot of these shows, and talking to people, I've realized that a lot of people that did listen to your, mid 2000s emo pop, rock, all that stuff, a lot of those people did go to dance music. And
Mm.
so there's and you'll hear it in certain, like, I know we make fun of dubstep a lot, but there is a sector of electronic music that thrives on that rock sound and that hardcore edge. And then of course there's the gamut of that, but I think a lot of those people went to EDM as well. So it might not necessarily be as political inherently, but I think there is a culture of, there's this term plur, peace, love, unity, respect. And that's what you're supposed to abide by when you're in these dance spaces. And so I think that's like a microcosm of that, where those people went.
Right.
And I do I do enjoy it when I'm there. So the the emo to EDM pipeline exists. Yes.
That makes me think I need to check out EDM. But anyway, that was a very
Yeah.
roundabout conversation around Fall Out Boy. But bring back punk bands. I'm in it. I'm into
I
it. Remember I
we're
said Chaperone does a punk album. You
we're
know.
in. We're in. One other email I did want to look at is from Kara, tuning in from the UK. Hello, Kara.
Hello.
Recommendation of a musical called Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York.
Mm,
I've heard
I've never
about
heard of
this.
this.
I
Oh, I
have
haven't.
heard of,
Okay.
yeah, I've heard about this. And the concept looks really cool. It's literally two people carrying a cake across New York. I believe it is playing in New York. I might have made that up, but there is an intention to bring it over to the States. So yeah, so this is something that, and I want to talk about musical theater today myself. So I'm glad you brought this up. I don't want to give away too much. It's quite a nice, modern rom com. But it isn't just about romance. So yeah, I think everyone should give it a chance and check that out.
Is
Um,
what's the sort of tone of it? What's musically, or do you like, is it is it contemporary? Is it more of like a jazzy thing?
Absolutely contemporary. Two strangers carry a cake across New York. First, you're going to meet Dougal, who's an impossibly upbeat Brit who has just landed in New York City for the first time to attend the wedding of the father he's never met. You'll meet Robin, the sister of the bride, and a no nonsense New Yorker with a lot of errands to do for the bride, including picking up the groom's estranged son from the airport. These two strangers begin their journey together, navigating New York, secrets, and second chances. I believe there's a lot of there's flashbacks and revelations. It is a contemporary musical, but it's apparently done very well in the UK, and so yeah, they are bringing it over here to the States. So if you get a chance to see it, I highly recommend. It looks like there's even performances as early as tonight or whenever you're listening to this podcast. So yeah, thank you for the recommendation, and I'm glad someone has brought that up.
Do you feel like, man, this could be a maybe we can pin this for a later because of your topic today, but
Mhm.
I feel like I used to be so in the know on what new musicals were happening and like what was being developed and workshopped and what's on Broadway right now. And people can you could make up a musical, you could Mad Libs a musical to me, and I'd be like, yeah, I guess that's. I feel like I have completely lost touch, and it's like strange because I knew everything. I could be like, in 2004, the winner of the Tony was like, I knew it was insufferable.
Mhm.
But maybe it's like the award show thing from last week where I'm just like, huh, I don't know anymore. Or I
Yeah,
don't know. Were nerd for that stuff?
I was, especially when I was in college, right? Because we had to be in the know about what was going on,
Right.
and then
Especially
of
Michigan.
course,
Yeah.
especially Michigan. Oh yeah, they were mad at us if we didn't know. But then you move to New York, and then you just want to know what shows are there for you to audition for, right? So you just want to know
Right.
the playing field. I do want to touch on this later because I wonder if Broadway is going the same way of film for me, in that we are taking less and less chances and going with more safer
Mm-hmm.
possibilities so that we can recoup our investments and things like that. I'll touch on that later, but yeah, I hear your point, and I agree with it.
We will revisit theater shortly.
Yes. um
Thank you for the emails, everybody. Thank you
yes,
for writing us in. You can always write us at so what are you into pod@gmail.com.
he got it right.
And we really appreciate it. We'll read them on air so long as we can.
Yes.
As long as there's not something horrible in it, we'll read it.
Yes.
What
All
if we
right.
committed to no matter what you write, we will read it on the air? It's like, no, that's not
This podcast would be 4 hours long. We'd be encroaching on Joe Rogan's territory of just talking for far too long.
true.
All right, so Curt, so what are you into?
I've had two interests this week. I've had two areas of obsession. So I think I'll start with one topic, and if there's time at the end to come around to the more petty thing, I'll start with what I'm really into on a deep, visceral, I'm enjoying it level. But then I
Mhm.
have another thing I'm into that I'm spite into, that I'm angrily,
Mm,
what the fuck is this? And I'm mad about it. And that's not as positive. So I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with the positive thing.
great.
And it's more of a way of thinking about things. For years, I used to, when I was younger, watching movies, getting into cinema, I I really resented. I wouldn't even call it absurdist sort of filmmaking, but non-linear, sort of abstract, new wave kind of uh, experimental sort of things. When I was younger, I wanted. I was so interested in structure. It's like what I fell in love with was this idea of there's rules to a world and you build a world and things make sense, and you set up a character for this and you set up this payoff and this aria, like everything. It's like I was in awe of the structure and kind of the architecture of great stories, and I still am, and I still appreciate it. But I've noticed something in this particular season, in the year of our Lord 2026. I have found myself, and actually I had this as a topic for episode 0, but we hadn't gotten into it yet. So this has been a journey for a few months. I've really been on a journey of wanting to seek out and watch and engage with more surrealist, dreamlike kind of storytelling.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because there are a few films that I've watched in the past like month or two that I know like 20-year-old me would have loathed. I would have shouted Emperor's New Clothes at it and been like, there's nothing here. It's nothing. It's just performative nonsense. There's specifically, so the films that came to mind are uh Tarkovsky's The Mirror, um, David Lynch's Fire Walk with Me,
Mm.
and then a recent film, Lynn Ramsey's Die, My Love.
Mhm.
And these are films that I would have hated. I mean, like, absolutely hated a decade ago. And for some reason in this season, and I haven't answered this question, and so I'm curious to ask what you think, James, because I
Great.
think we've talked a little bit about some of the projects and some of the ideas you've had, especially with dance and with cinema, that we've both been in this weird phase of like seeking more absurdist and strange kind of non-linear things. I'm finding so much meaning and beauty in that. And I don't know if it's because the state of the world. I don't know if it's because I myself am like questioning who I don't know, but I'm finding myself now very resistant to when a film or story is actually too like, let me explain to you what the moral of this is. Let me lay it
Mm.
all out. Let me explain to you what you should be thinking and feeling about it. In
Mhm.
fact, when a story or film is doing that, I find myself going, and I'm really loving the journey of watching images and sound and movement and then kind of going, what do I think this means to me? What do
Mhm.
I want to take out of this? Um, and I'm doing it all sober. So it's not like I'm not like I, like, cause I've had people over the years be like, oh yeah, like I had a transcendent experience, taking an edible or something, which I
Mhm.
totally get, but it's really just been, I've been craving that. I started reading. I was recommended this book, and there's a very famous director named Andrei Tarkovsky, and he is a Russian director who made just some of the most like defining eras of Soviet filmmaking, and his movies. And I want to shout out Ali Gordon specifically. About a year ago, Ali and Marty had just moved to LA. Ali was in VHS Christmas Carol and is an amazing singer, improviser, writer.
Also
Awesome.
Wolverine, go blue.
Yes, also Wolverine. And she and her husband Marty have impeccable like taste. Like they're really just interested in art and things. And they invited us to go see a screening of Tarkovsky's um Stalker at Vidiot's, which is this cool like indie kind of theater in Los Angeles. Stalker is a 3.5 hour journey into like hell. It is a surrealist, bizarre. It's like on its face, it's like a sci-fi movie about these characters going into this place called the Zone, where they're trying to figure out what mystery is going on. But there are scenes in this movie. Okay, I'll give you an example. There's
Mhm.
one scene that I think lasts for 7.5 minutes, where it starts on these three men in like this kind of dilapidated building with water that's raining outside, and so the water's pouring down, and it like starts on a semi like close up shot, medium shot of them, and it's a 7.5 minute pullback. 7.5 minutes. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. 7.5 minutes
Wow.
of just pulling back until we're in a wide. And I
Mhm.
remember this specific shot. We were watching it in a theater. I would never watch this at home. I would never. I would put it on for 2 minutes and be like, next. But because I
Mhm.
was in this movie, because I had been invited, because I was like, all right, let's go see it. We were kind of sitting there. We were kind of stuck there. And I had this really interesting experience where there were these long extended sequences that would start where I'd be like, interesting. And then about 2 minutes in, I'd be like, oh my God, okay, I get it. And then I'd start to get irritated and annoyed and be like, I understand what you're doing. Let's move on. And then I would kind of start to, the resentment would like give way to resignation. And I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to sit in this moment. And then I would start to look at the screen and be like, wow, that's really beautiful. And then I would start to get interested in kind of leaning and be like, what am I, wow, I'm really feeling like I literally had this whole gamut of emotion consistently through that film where I'd be infuriated, resigned, re-intrigued, and then sort of enter this like meditative kind of state. And after the movie, I don't know if I love the movie, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And there were images and moments and sequences that are burned into my head that are so, it made me feel a very specific kind of way, the way you feel when you wake up from a dream and you go, what was that feeling that I had? But it's so present. You couldn't quite explain what you experienced, but you're like, I know what I felt. So I've been on this journey for the past few months of seeking out like, what are films like that? What are stories like that? I'm actually even interested in maybe books too. But right now I've kind of been on this film journey. I've been reading his book, which is very much about filmmaking, that was recommended to me as just a phenomenal. Richard Linklater, one of my favorite directors, recommends it and said it was a seminal book for him in thinking about how to tell stories and how to think about movies as not just a device to deliver plot, but a way to create feeling and immersion. And Tarkovsky's stuff is weird. It is weird. It is weird. It is weird. But you bring yourself to it. And then there was a really wonderful interview, and I swear I'm almost done with this thought, but there's a wonderful interview with David Lynch that I watched a few years back prior to his passing. And if you ever watch David Lynch movies, they're weird. They're weird.
Very.
A lot of times they don't make any sense. And I always struggle with David Lynch movies for years because I'd be like, I'm supposed to like appreciate these, but I'd just be like, fuck, that's stupid. I can't. And it was an interview with him where he was talking about why he wanted to make movies. And he was like, well, I really didn't want to make movies. I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I was a painter. He's like, I was a painter and I wanted to make my paintings move. And I figured the way I could do that is making a movie. And when I started to go think about his movies as a painting, or start to think about film, and Lynn Ramsey does the similar thing with Die My Love. I'm a huge fan of her work. She's done some phenomenal movies. She did a movie called You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. We need to talk about Kevin. But this new movie, it's Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. It's about Jennifer Lawrence sort of struggling with postpartum, and it's a very surreal and very bizarre and very dreamlike movie where if I was to tell you the plot, you'd be like, that sounds incomprehensible. But watching interviews with people talking about the movie, it's like it captured the feeling of what it is to go through that incredibly profoundly difficult process of postpartum depression. And that's like a very literal thing, but it takes that and it teases it out in it's like I can't relate to that, but I feel like I experienced a slice of this overwhelming thing that colors every fabric of every moment of your day. And anyway, I'm rambling, but I've been on this journey of really being seeking out non-linear, non-explicitly plot driven stories and letting them wash over me a bit and not being so pedantic about, well, what is the theme? What are the themes? What is the plot? And just being like, what did I think? What did I feel? So anyway, that's what I've been into.
It's so funny that you're bringing this up because there's a lot of themes that are going to cross over with what I wanted to talk about this week. But the whole time you were talking about this, the one movie that immediately popped into my head was Tree of Life.
Yes.
Okay, which is another, it's a Terrence Malick film from over a decade ago at this, I think 2011.
Do you know my connection to Tree of Life?
Yes, I've heard that story. Yes.
If you get the Criterion Collection, you can see Kim's name right there. My wife, Kim, she was in Tree of Life. She worked on that. She worked on it for about a month or two.
She has the credit.
She got the famous Malick cut. The Malick cuts a lot of movies. But yes, 100%. Malick very much works in immersion
versus
linear plot.
And I gotta say, 2011 James had a hard time watching
Mm,
this movie.
mhm,
It was I
mhm,
just and I again I had a similar feeling. It was like I'm supposed to like this, but I am just so I feel so removed from anything. I don't feel connected there. Where's my solid ground in this? And I wonder now. I have not revisited it, but I'm also kind of on this kick right now. It's like, yeah, give me something that's a little bit off, a little bit different. Maybe I can pull the theme for myself. And I wonder if I watched it today, how I would feel. Uh,
mhm.
uh, Go ahead.
Is that do you think is that just getting older? Is it, because that's the question for me is like, and maybe
Mhm.
it's not even, maybe maybe trying to answer the question of why am I into this is honestly a useless endeavor, because that's kind of the point of a lot of the work. This work is to not, there's no clear cut answer, but I am curious. I'm just like, why is this resonating with me now? Is that just the trajectory of being a human? I don't know. I don't have a good
No,
thesis.
no, I think it is. I think age, just like your palate changes, you decide to eat different foods as you get older. Things that you loved when you were younger are no longer fun or digestible for you. I think the same goes for the content. Oh, I hate that word. The media that we take in, right?
But you mean it, you mean content in the right way. that's
Yeah.
that's that is like the actual,
Yeah.
that's what the word actually means. It means what is inside of a thing. So I
Yes.
appreciate you using the right way.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, so
Yeah, our
because
favorite content creator, Terrence Malick.
we would be banished from ever making anything ever again for calling him that. But no, what I would say is that there was a time where I could not personally sit down to watch a movie because I knew I'd have the
Mhm,
dedicated time to invest in this thing and watch it. And I just wouldn't do it. I had too much going on. I had to be outside. I'd be going this, there, and the other. And now it's almost like I have a need and a desire to be enveloped in a world that is different from my own. And so I'm seeking that
mhm,
next movie. I want a nice show. Like, yeah, 30-minute shows are not a problem, but I want to
sure.
be gripped into something. So there's almost like sometimes when I get to binge watch something, I'm kind of happy that I get to because I want to be stuck there for a little bit.
Mhm,
And your need for escapism at this point, I think, is kind of universal. It's why something like Stranger Things worked. It was both nostalgia, but also taking us somewhere that we can't see outside. I like to call certain things slice of life, which is I think just regular movies or TV shows where you're just watching everyday people doing things, and that's fine. But right now, I think the way that we have been approaching storytelling from a modern writing perspective is very much just slice of life, and to me, that's
mhm,
boring. I don't
mhm,
enjoy that. I don't want that. Give me in our episode 0, I talked about good luck, have fun, don't die. I think I said that correctly. But that's taking what could be just a slice of life, but giving it an extra layer of wackiness and sci-fi and stuff. So like, yeah, it could happen today, but there's something so fun and inventive about the way we're going about it. And to your point, when you're talking about these films, it gives perspective. It gives a point of view. It gives something for us to dive into that is not what we're seeing out on the street every single day. And that's what I want to look at now. That's where my palette has gone to. Is give me that escapism, give me that surrealism, because now my mind is opening and now I'm seeing the world a little bit differently. So I think if I were to answer your question for you, I'd say yeah, you've grown older and you're a little bit more curious about the world and wow, where it could take you.
it comes back to our sort of thesis of like this whole endeavor of like being curious.
Mhm.
A year ago, I was in a pretty cynical place because of just various things, work, life. I felt like whatever, I felt like I was stagnant in my own creativity, and a variety of circumstances, classes I took, stepping away from certain things led me to a place where I decided for the last, literally it's been almost about a year of this kind of journey of getting curious and falling in love with the elements of creativity again, not the outcome. And I think that might be the biggest shift genuinely in my life in the biggest year in this year,
Mhm.
is re-falling in love with process and exploration, and the outcome. is almost an irrelevant. The outcome will be whatever it needs to become. And I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if the reason I'm really, to your point, connecting with a lot of these things is they're just reminding me of what the joy of like experiencing a sensation, experiencing a sound, an image, a thing that all is composed together. Like that is the joy of it, not, and how did it all wrap up and what does it all mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, in some ways, I feel like a real freedom recently in my own life, personally, in the last year of caring less and less about what does it all lead to, and just being a little bit more, wow, I get to do this today. That's cool. And I don't know exactly where that's going to go. And yet I'm seeing in my own life that approaching it that way is actually, I think, opening more doors, because I'm not so just trying to strangle everything to make it into something else. So I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if like that's part of it too. And that is what's so magic is, and it's, it's hard because sometimes, when I watch films like this and somebody will, do you like it? Do you recommend it? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I could recommend it to anybody else, but for
Mm-hmm.
some reason at this point in time, getting curious again about like just essential human experience and feeling and emotion, it feels like the antidote to the flattening of everything through technology, through this the crushing weight of capitalism. Like it
Mm-hmm.
feels like getting to the essentials of taste, touch, sound, smell, f- sensory things in a world that feels so just compressed. It makes me feel alive again. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point of art, is to just go, I feel, I hear, I see, I experience, not, well, what is it? What's the algorithm that leads to the ultimate like desired outcome,
yeah, yeah.
And also too, like maybe, sorry, no, go ahead. Sorry. I'm
What?
rambling.
No, I was going to say one of my favorite films, unironically, I mean this wholeheartedly, is Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
It's a
Edgar
great,
Wright film
great
based
movie.
on the comic book series. And the reason I love it is because it's a simple story about a guy that has a crush on a girl. But we all, now, granted, it is adapted from the graphic novel, so I do understand that. However, Edgar Wright just had such a vision to bring that to life that you sometimes I just want to watch a movie that's fun, and that to me is a fun movie from beginning to end. I'm enthralled. It's the way that they uses the text from the comic books into the film. Like I just love that. I love the way that they use their camera like whip pans for certain effects. Like that's something you can't necessarily do like with a comedy unless it's a broad comedy and you want to do a lot of sight gags, but just taking a simple concept and finding the greatest way to augment that. And I that again, that to me, that's a form of storytelling. I'm almost looking for more movies and TV to take risks, do that, because
Mm-hmm.
then I want to watch. I want to see how you're going to pull this off and do this next. So maybe it's a little bit of like I want spectacle, and that then I'll get to that point in a little bit. But yeah, so I think that's what I'm craving for in that stuff.
Totally. I think too, now, and this is like kind of the last thought. No, I think I've said everything I can say on it, but I also think what I'm really finding gratifying and meaningful in this moment is anything that triggers and reconnects me to reminding me that I am here in this moment, that I am present. And that sounds so simple, but I really mean that, and it's a incredibly cathartic thing to just hear I guess I've been on this very sensorial journey. Sounds
Mhm.
so pretentious. That sounds so pretentious.
Hey, we can be a little pretentious every once in a while. It's fine. We've earned that
But
right.
but what I mean is, because I spend so much time on a screen and I spend so much time in virtual space, or so much time, we spend a lot of time by default trying to film ourselves for an audition that hopefully will become something, or like we're always conceptualizing the thing that doesn't exist yet, or that we are trying to make an opportunity for ourselves that we hope will become something in the future. And that's just part of our job, and we've chosen that. but there's something incredibly healing about art that just brings you right into the present. And
Hmm.
it sounds and textures and colors and feelings of like, this is it. Like there's no it doesn't lead to something else. It's just like about the experience of being in this moment. And I think 12-year-old me, 15-year-old me would just be like, oh, who cares? The present is boring. I want exciting. I want awesome. And I do still want to create and make things, and I want to open doors in the future. But I'm just finding something really healing, almost meditative, maybe,
Hmm.
about just being like, wow, this is art stripped down to kind of its essential elements. And
Yeah.
it's not too clever. It's not trying to do anything other than just let you feel what this moment really is. And I'm
Hmm.
just finding that really like cathartic and healing and recentering on this is what art is. It's an expression of being alive in this moment. So
Hmm.
um yeah, I mean, I think too, I was talking to Sinead, our friend Sinead Prasad recently about this too, with craving that in like theater and like immersive theater experiences, and how that's something I'm so interested in. And I find myself not as interested in maybe commercial like spectacle and things like that, because I love things that literally sensorially, tactilely, like I can touch, I can feel, I go, wow, I'm so yeah, I think that is also my antidote to like when people say, AI and all these things, that the technology and these tools that are coming to sort of flatten the human experience. Like, I think one of your best things you can do is go experience art that is incredibly visceral and tactile and and sensorial, to be like,
Hmm.
this is it's I'm here, you're here, we're here together.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm into.
That's awesome. Love that. I'm so glad you ended on that point because that ties directly into what I wanted to talk about.
What are you
Um,
into?
so I'm into this adaptation, I have to call it, of a musical that I saw last week, Here Lies Love.
Hmm.
Now, there's a wonderful history about this. So it started as a concept album. David Byrne and Fatboy Slim, I believe they made it back in 2010. And we're talking, they had Cyndi Lauper, Tori Amos, Sia, all kinds of Florence Welch, I think, was also on it. And what it is this concept album telling the story of the first lady of the Philippines, Imelda Marcos, extremely controversial figure in the Philippines. And you learn why during the course of this 90 minutes. Started as a concept album. They then did an off Broadway run. It was very popular. They did also have a Broadway run as well. It did not last as long on Broadway. I don't want to say it's because of this, but the staging of it was immersive. So there was a massive dance floor, and as an audience, there was standing room, and so you were seeing different pockets as the show was going on around you. I think that's cool. For Broadway, that's great. We've now learned since then, things like Sleep No More, which is a most immersive theater in New York, that's doing really well. They revived Phantom as an immersive experience that is in pretty much in the same vein as Sleep No More right now.
I know
So
three people on that show right now, which is
yeah,
crazy.
I have a few people
I
I
have
know.
very direct connection to that.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And so um, immersive theater in that sense, especially for New York, um, there is a place for that, and I'm so glad that they are experimenting with that more. That being said, what I saw last week, they reimagined Here Lies Love. It's in a thrust stage over here at the Mark Taper Forum by the Amundsen Theater. Um, and so what they did is they, rather than doing the dance floor, they did kind of make it more of a three-quarter thrust. However, there are elements where performers are in the audience, sometimes right next to you. So they are trying to galvanize you and bring you in, partly because I think that show needs it, because you are, as a viewer, at a certain point, a participant. You are one of the Filipinos who are going through the turmoil that Imelda has put on these people. So they kind of put you in their spot a little bit in their staging of it. I Well, the whole time I was watching Here Lies Love, it was reminding me for many reasons, of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Evita. If
Mm.
you've seen that, it's Eva Peron, the story of her life. Both of these shows are about a young woman in a rags to riches story in which she marries into wealth and status and privilege. And the people, I think, I would say for different reasons, but I think Evita kind of whitewashes exactly what happened in Eva Peron's life. Whereas
Mm.
here,
I've never seen. I've heard songs from it and I've seen
Mhm.
clips, but I've never seen the show. I've never seen the movie and I've never experienced the show. So I know very little
Mhm.
about Evita besides, the "Don't Cry for Me" Argentina moment.
Iconic moment. Yes. Don't see the movie. It's trash. But the
Okay.
show, the show, I have a lot. I've been in the show. I've seen the show. I think it's great. But like I said, in terms of giving an accurate depiction of who she was, I don't know if it does the best job. Here Lies Love, however, is a pretty on the nose storytelling of like, hey, look at what this woman did to these people. And I have to first say the cast was fantastic over here at the Mark Taper Forum. Just really like some of the best voices I've heard in forever, especially to gather an entire Filipino cast, which is never happens in mainstream theater like that. Um, but what I really took away from it, as someone who is a fan of Fatboy Slim, I remember in the '90s I was listening to all of his stuff, and then appreciating David Byrne as I got older and understanding what he and Talking Heads were doing with music, and to watch a show that where you can recognize someone's style so quickly, because there were definitely songs where like I could hear like, oh, that's a Fatboy Slim beat. There's another song where I could hear, oh yeah, this is how David Byrne, like this is how he sings, or how he, that's his patter that he likes to do that. But to watch the way they moved around the theater space and brought you into this story, that's the kind of theater that I love, and that's the stuff I want to do.
Was
This
it
how Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, is it with the use of the space? Were they in the audience? Was the audience like on stage? Like what was kind of the design element of bringing the audience into it?
There is a literal moment where they bring some people on stage, so yes, there is that. However, we are still in our seats the whole time, but there are platforms that they built in the audience, in the house.
Oh, cool.
So
So it comes
sometimes,
out into your world.
yes, yes, yes. So they're amongst the crowd as well. Um, I I loved it so much, and if you're gonna do a biographical musical, I think you've got to elevate it. But then I was thinking, it's like, but that's not just for biographical musicals. I feel like we're getting a lot of, well, so right now we're doing a lot of movie adaptations for musicals. Okay.
Mhm.
We had Outsiders, The Lost Boys, Death Becomes Her. Like right now, that's the big thing, is to bring out these pre-existing movies that everyone loved, and now let's just make a stage version. And this is not to discredit anybody. This is not to tell them that the work is bad, whatever. But when I was growing up, I guess I had this idea in my head that theater was a space in which you could experiment and toy with, and you could get away with higher concepts because of the inherent theatricality. It's in the name of what you could put on stage. We can augment our reality a little bit. We can do something different. I want to say the best example of this is that Sondheim, who I did not
Mhm.
appreciate until I got much older, he was doing essentially slice of life musicals, right? He was taking, something like Company, a guy just like getting up in his age and just trying to figure out what his life is like. Merrily We Roll Along, a musical about writers, like just little things, but his approach to lyricism and his music was something that took it just a notch up. He's like, how can I emulate your heartbeat in this moment? How can I really tap into the tension? How can I get that yearning? And so what he did for musical theater, and as so many people have tried to recreate, I think rather unsuccessfully, he was able to just give us an element of storytelling that when I was younger, probably wouldn't have noticed it, would not have appreciated it. But now I almost want that. I need, like, that's why I'm not excited about all the theater that's coming out all the time, because to me it just feels like, okay, it just feels like something you could have done in a song cycle and probably would have served the same purpose. Um, I I'm not a composer myself. I'm definitely not a lyricist, and
Mhm.
so I can't say what the exact formula is, but I wish theater would go back to its roots of wanting to experiment and challenge and change. Because watching something like this production of Here Lies Love last week, that's what I want. That's what I want to feel. I want that energy, that excitement, that newness. And as someone who's auditioned for certain shows, sometimes I'm not as excited, if I'm going to be completely honest, because it doesn't feel like I'm a part of something really fun or great. It just feels like, well, maybe I'll get insurance weeks if I do this. And that's not why I got into this business, you know?
Man, you point to something. It kind of reminds me of what I was saying. I think maybe with what I'm craving with the sort of non-linear, sort of abstract thing, but like the flattening of art. And I mean flattening in the sense of everything is the lowest kind of common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, what's just the most? I mean, I saw the most upsetting thing, not the most upsetting thing. There's more upsetting things in the world. Let's be real. But I saw a quote from Pete Docter the other day where he was talking about Elio, the film that came out.
Yeah.
And he basically said something to the effect of like, I realize like really at the end of the day, like we just need to make movies that are as like well liked and popular as possible, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's Pixar is a good example in a strange way of like they're they started off making such sort of specific and interesting and weird little things, and the reason they became so successful is because that specificity and that nuance connected, and then they went, oh, everybody likes it, so now we just got to we got to sand off all the edges and now make it just as widespread as possible. And I think what you're pointing to in theater has happened, where it's like theater is magic because it doesn't have to be literal, because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to, because we're in a theater, we're suspending our disbelief. I know it's, but yeah, when you're just like, hey, do you like that movie? Do you like that movie from 1993? Here it
There it
is.
is. Yeah.
They're singing now. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, listen, there are genuinely some wonderful adaptations, and I'm not trying to diss the notion of an adaptation of a film or something, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was recently on a kick of watching just interviews with Sondheim talking specifically about Sunday in the Park with George. I was
Oh,
watching these clips of this show and I was like, this would never get made.
mm-mm.
Ever get made now. Just never.
Never.
Never. And it's so beautiful and lush and wonderful and thoughtful and
It's
it
one of
was
my
a
favorite
smash.
Broadway.
Like,
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Broadway scores ever created by far.
and it just wouldn't get made. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I guess I can't say that 100% knowing that, but I have a strong, if I had to put my money on it, I just go looking at the kind of shows that get off the ground. I go, I don't think that,
Here's to your point. I think it's because Broadway and same with Hollywood right now, they're in this era of we need to guarantee we're going to make money. So they're not in the business necessarily of art. They're in the business of making something that is the most palatable for the widest audience. The thing
mm-hmm,
is, if you're trying to make something for everybody, you're going to make something for nobody.
mm-hmm,
It will find an audience. It might run a little bit, but if we're looking at the track record of a lot of shows on Broadway right now, no one's really doing great. From my understanding, the most money that they can make is if the show goes on the road, because ticket prices in New York are way too expensive. No, let alone just getting there. And so, if you're going to spend all your money, you want to go on a show that you know you're going to like, and it's not, if it's not a guarantee you're going to like it, then it's out the door. So, uh, and that's indicative of entertainment in general. So I can't just say it's just on Broadway. But yeah, but the thing is, like, yeah, if the people in charge, if the people with the money aren't investing in art for art's sake, all they're doing is making a show that they think they can make a little money on, and then on to the next
mm-hmm.
one if that one fails.
We just want everyone to be happy. We don't want to have to, people to have to think about this movie and like reflect on it and wonder what that, then why, then
Yeah,
why? And it's
yeah,
like, oh, so it's just a theme park ride at that point,
it
it's
is.
like, what, and that is how so much of what theater kind of has become by default. And I guess I can't quite necessarily blame people for going, well, how do we, because we know theater is insanely expensive. The overhead is massive. So then I'm sure producers are like, well, we got to just, what are people going to be guaranteed? But then it becomes just constantly chasing that. And then you lose something essential. And part of me goes, am I just like the old man, you know, shaking his fist at a cloud? And I was like, no, I don't think so.
Mhm.
I, there, something has shifted culturally in these spaces, and risks are just not taken. And I don't know where the blame is. I don't know if it's audience taste or if it's capital. I don't know
Mhm.
what but it is evident in the art that is getting financed and produced
Mhm.
how few risks are being taken. And so it's sounds like with this production, it's like there's something magical when you're like, wow, this is different and weird and interesting, and like,
Mhm.
man. And when I don't know, it's crazy because I say all that. I say, I understand why people do that. But then you look at like Sinners this year.
Mhm.
That's a massive risk. It's a
Yeah.
massive creative risk. People showed up, people
Mhm.
loved it. It was a financial success. It's probably going to take home a bunch of Oscars. Like,
Mhm.
you can do, like, hey, people will show up if you give them something. I just, that
Mhm.
notion of we can't we can't talk about anything in these movies. Yes, you can.
Mhm.
We can't go there in our shows. Yes, you can.
It's the
I
way I
fully
felt
reject
about
that.
it's the way I felt about Everything Everywhere All at Once too. That was a
Mm-hmm.
huge risk, and look how much that paid off. Um, you asked a question earlier, and the so you don't know where it kind of fell off, but part of it is that because we started putting so much attention into film and television, and also media illiteracy. What we
Mm-hmm.
stopped doing really it comes down to arts education, right? If we're not exposing people or not having things accessible to people, all of a sudden it fades away. So by that I mean, think about it, all the times in high school the jocks are just like, oh, laughing at you because you're doing the high school play or whatever. It kind of starts there, right? You're already told, oh, you're different, you're weird if you're into the theater, if you're into music or something like that. And then as you get older, you start recognizing like, oh yeah, my school, they put all the money into the sports teams but nothing into the arts department. We tried, depending on the schools, depending, because like my school, we at least tried to take us to like a play or a musical or something at least once a year. But not every school gets that. Not every county, no one, not that's not accessibility. And so if some people don't make it until their 20s or 30s before they see a professional Broadway play or tour or something to that effect, they just don't even know that there's an availability and accessibility of that. So then all of a sudden we have this media illiteracy in which we think that the only thing that matters is what's on your screen or what's at the movie theater. And then of
Mm-hmm.
course we can get into music too, but I think that's a whole other conversation now because with all the streaming platforms, there's almost too much music and it's hard for any one person to stand out. So you're lucky if you do. But with this mentality that only if the only thing that matters is movies and TV, that's why you get ignorant comments like the one that came from Timothy Chalamet. And you're saying that an art form like opera, art form like ballet that have existed for 400 and 500 years, to say that, oh well, it's struggling. Well, it's struggling because of attitudes like his. It's struggling
Mm-hmm.
because someone who is getting multi-million dollar contracts is out here denigrating the hard work of people that have to put on live performance. He can fuck up a line and they can say cut, fixing things up, they can edit it. What these people are doing night in and night out, sacrificing their bodies, sacrificing their feet, their voices, their entire being to entertain, and they're still entertaining people. I don't want to get this misconception that no one's going, that these theaters are sitting there. The Met is still a big deal. All
Mm-hmm.
right, Alvin Ailey is still a great big deal. So I don't. So why? And also, I'll let you say something in just a second, but
No, you're good.
the fact that Timothy Chalamet has not only brought this up in this recent interview, this is this thing that he said about 7 years ago at a completely separate event. So I don't know who hurt him, but he has a personal grievance against opera and ballet, two things that I know for a fact he can't do. And I hope that people that heard this comment but have some reverence for art can understand how flawed his logic is and can support these art forms that have endured centuries and wars and censorship to push the boundaries of what live performance can be.
I 100% agree. I actually made a TikTok about this. I was like, I shouldn't talk about it, but I am not going to defend his comments in any capacity, but I do think it points to a greater issue, which is access to arts education as an essential part of our culture. What I find really disappointing about those comments is I'm like, dude, you are one of the biggest movie stars in the world. What he is highlighting, this is my good faith read, although I'm not trying to defend, I promise. My good faith read is like he's pointing to a very real problem, which is a lack of funding and attention that these things get. There's no solution provided. It's just, well, those things are dead, so I don't want to be part of that. And that's what I find to be really like cynical, especially because I believe his mom is a dancer and like was a dancer and a Broadway dancer. And so I do think the reason he might be referencing this is he grew up around that world, seeing it not have the sort of voice and the whatever. And I'm like, do you know what the solution is to that though? Emphasizing and proactively advocating for arts education, access. Like one of the things about like dance and opera is those are extraordinarily difficult fields to be able to financially train in. Before you ever make money and make a living at it, you have to dedicate yourself to it. And because it has become a more insular art form and tickets are really expensive and training it becomes this thing that gets smaller and niche and smaller and niche. And I'm like, and I know, it was an off the cuff, it was an offhanded comment, but I'm like, you do have a chance as like on this platform to like advocate for like artistic resources and access and education and awareness of them, and access to them has been limited, and that cuts off. I mean, it's even like we know this firsthand with trying to get theater projects funded, and we're super lucky obviously with some of the projects we've worked on that we have an awesome fan base. But I frequently talk to theater makers who have been like, how the heck do you guys get funding? And we're like, well, we tapped into this, we're privileged to be part of this thing that had the people, but it is so hard to get funding because people don't think it's valuable. And so I find that the comment to be so frustrating because you go highlight instead of just accept. It's a very nihilistic thing of like, well, the interest is not there, so let it die, versus like, hey, there's actually something of value and beauty. And there's a really, as I was discussing earlier, like it is art for the sake of art. It is getting in touch with what it is to be alive, what it is to be human, to sing, to dance, to move. I just go, there's a chance to like really point out what the issue is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being like the CEO of a tech company and being like, misinformation, it sucks, right? Do you want to help?
You can fix it. You could be the one.
you could be part of a coalition of people that could advocate to help those things and help those artists develop. And I guess like I don't see the difference. I mean, it's, yes, film and opera and theater and dance and these things they're different arts, but they are in conversation with each other. And film is a culmination of those art forms coming together. Without dance and movement and singing and all these things, like we don't get to film. And so it's like support your speak out about the thing, and what is being identified is true in the sense of, I remember the first time I went to see a symphony. And I remember thinking like, oh, it's gonna be so boring. Like I was like a kid. We went to the Bass Hall in Fort Worth and I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be so boring. I'm gonna sit there and listen to music for 2 hours. And it was incredible. And it was magical. It was transcendent. I was visualizing images in my head. It was sweeping. It was majestic. It really put into me a deep love of classical music. And I got that because my mom was able to take me to see it and to experience it. And so I just think access to education is the antidote to that cynicism. Anyway, I hope that
No,
doesn't sound like I'm defending those comments. I'm
no,
really
no, no.
not.
To be fair, you are not the only person I've seen that's tried to, make a little bit more sense of what he said. And because I think two things can be true. I think it is true that arts education, accessibility are two very big things. Like that's my biggest gripe with Broadway is that there's so many wonderful performances that many people will never see unless you go to like Lincoln
Mm-hmm.
Center Library and get the archival footage. But even then, you're going to have to fly to New York in order to get that. Not everyone can do that. So Broadway needs to find a better way to make some of these shows more accessible. And thus people, I think, will have a greater interest in those things. And then as well as arts education, not just band and high school choir and all that stuff, but just really let people know that there are careers in this, that you
Mm-hmm.
can go into many avenues of the arts at an early age because not every school is getting the same exposure of that knowledge. So we have to do a much better job, especially in this country, about offering those opportunities to people and that education. The other thing that is also true is that Timothy Chalamet has made that point twice, years apart, and neither time did he try to clarify his statements.
The kinds of movies that I would assume he and artists like him would want to make, um, those will go away too.
Hmm.
The interesting, independent, off the beaten path things like those will also be on the chopping block. People will have the same thought of like, oh God, an indie movie. Oh my God, it's an arts movie. Please show me some guys blowing up. It's like when we got tech bros on Twitter being like, look, I made Jason Statham fight Tom Cruise or whatever.
Yeah.
You go, they're coming for that kind of art too. They being the consolidation, the flattening of everything interesting and nuanced and creative. So yes, you might go like, well, indie film feels like it has a healthier voice in the collective cultural zeitgeist than opera or ballet for now.
Hmm.
But the same issues will come for those spaces where it's like if you don't prioritize media literacy, access to art, access to stories, access to the tools that young artists need to get started to be able to do these things, then no one's going to care in 10 or 15 years. We've already seen it. We've already seen the sort of that like mid-budget movie doesn't exist anymore. You get
Hmm.
$250 million movies, or you get, these tiny little movies. And, it's cool that like only a few actors in the world, like Timothy Chalamet, have been able to like thread the needle and make some more artistic fare in the smaller budget range that still that is a dying thing. And if you don't support arts access, that will be the next on the chopping block. So I just go, you are in community with each other here.
Hmm.
And the success of theater and opera and ballet is tied to the success of like this medium as well. And so I think it's like just thinking from a communal perspective versus like I'm gonna go with the one that like I think it's like movies are dying. Like let's be real. We're
Yeah.
watching right now the death of movies as a cultural force. Kids do not care. I've taught acting classes where nobody in the class watched movies. There's on the film cast, my friend Dave Chen has a film cast, and they've been having this ongoing conversation about this where they've been talking about how young people don't really care about movies. The film professor would like wrote in and said, I have an entire class of filmmakers. None of them want to make movies. They just want to make content. So movies are this is a dying art form too. Like the art is not dying, but
That is.
the capitalistic hold and the chokehold that this consolidation of the powers that be have, as we see right now, as Paramount is set to acquire Warner
Mm,
Brothers.
yeah.
That's going to mean that thousands of people are going to be laid off. There's going to be less places to get your stuff made. So I think like that to me is like don't be throwing stones when the house that you live in is also on fire.
Hmm.
We got to help each other as artists and advocate for art as an essential part of our culture. Otherwise, it's all gonna That's what
Yep.
and that's what the tech companies want. That they want to
Mhm.
say, you don't need art. Just type in a little sentence. Type in what you want to see, and it'll just spit it out for you. So like, we gotta fight for like
It
art.
sucks that they have it sucks that the incredibly smart people are using their abilities to eradicate another industry that they have nothing to do. It's like why do we have generative AI in the first? I just I'll always be mad about it. I'll always be the old man screaming at the sky about this. It just
Also,
why are
too,
we
that
speed
we
running the
have
death of art?
AI, which in theory could be like, throw it at cancer research or something. Like,
Yes.
throw it at, and they're like, no, 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 no. You know what we're going to use this for? You know what our main thing is going to be? It's going to be like faking Tom Cruise in a movie.
Yes.
But I will say, it points to, in my opinion, how essential art is. That's the first thing that they want to do.
Mhm,
That's the main emphasis,
mhm,
because they know if you can have a voice in culture, then you can. So it's like, it actually points to how powerful of a platform it is, and why I
yeah,
think it is adamant that we hold the line,
mhm,
and not like just give that up, because it is such a force in the world. So that's kind of like the least cynical take on the whole thing is like,
mhm,
don't be throwing stones. Help each other out. We all succeed as artists when art, it can be seen and experienced and felt and heard. And
mhm.
the amount of discipline and dedication it takes to be an artist at that level, to sing opera. Oh my god,
Yes.
it is an athletic feat that is impossible to
Mhm,
physically, with ballet, with, I mean, and it's like, it is the same level of dedication that should be, I think, admired. And like, hey, we do the same thing. I'm dedicated to this craft, you're dedicated to yours. Like, amazing. Let's help each other out,
yeah.
because they're coming for us all.
And on that note, I don't wanna overstay our welcome, so we should probably wrap things up, but, Kurt, do you have anything you wanna plug or anything going on in your sphere?
I should have thought about this question. Do I have anything going on? No. I
That's
mean,
okay, that's okay.
I'll just plug my YouTube channel. There we go.
There you go,
Over
see?
my YouTube channel, I've been trying to, and I've been a little absent recently, but I'm making videos about the creative process. It's kind of like stream of conscious videos about creativity, about being an artist, about like the ins and outs, the process of it. So very relevant to this topic. So it's on youtube.com/Curt Mega. It's just kind of me off the dome talking about stuff that I'm really passionate about. So there we go.
Sweet, see? Look at you, you're doing stuff.
I should write
Um,
down ahead of time things to plug so I don't seem like deer in the headlights.
he was like, I made orange juice this morning." And on my end, it was just released the trailer for season 2 of Dropout's Parlor Room. I will be
That's right.
there, yes, with Angela, Mariah, Joey, and Lauren. We have a nice little game to play with y'all. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, we'll be on the next season, so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, thank you all for listening to us rant a little bit. You know, we're just two passionate bros out here in the seas
I
of the
know
internet.
I feel like this is the first episode we really like, we're like clutching our chairs going, ah. So hopefully
Yes.
that's appreciated and not, yeah.
Yeah. So as always, you can find us on the socials. So what are you into pod? And then if you have any comments, concerns, questions, if you also want to express your ire against Timothy Chalamet, you can email at us at so what are you into pod at gmail.com, and I will read myself to sleep with how much hatred you have for that man. All
And I'm
right.
out here being like, I'm a Marty Supreme defender, but I'm having a hard time, guys. So, it's
If Marty Supreme has no haters, then I
it's
am dead.
dead.
Then I am dead.
Oh man.
All right. Thanks everybody, and stay curious.
Stay curious. Bye.